Today we are moving up the triple S, moving from the sacrum onto the scapula and refining the position of scapula and our ribs, our rib cage in space when we move, but even when we just stand or sit. So I mentioned scapula, there are triangular bones that are sitting on top of our back ribs, and they're part of our shoulder complex. Shoulder complex has 4 joints. The one that we think of most when we say shoulder is the glenohumeral joint, which is where our arm bone, our humerus, attaches to the glenoid cavity of the scapula, our shoulder blade. So as you can tell, when we move our arms, our arm and shoulder blade are directly connected. And for the shoulder blade to move, glide freely from and into its optimal positions is very important for mechanics, especially when we start to add load onto our hands, but even in our everyday life when we are standing up or moving upright. The other joint that I'll mention today is the scapulothoracic joint, which is where how our scapula sits against the back ribs. It's not your regular joint in a sense that it's not where 2 bones come to each other, connect to each other. It is, but this is achieved by the muscles that are keeping our scapula against the back ribs, not really a bone-to-bone connection. What I see a lot happening in yoga and movement and a lot of yoga poses is that we like to push our chest forward. When that happens, our rib cage moves and our scapula is having a hard time sitting against the back ribs. So that's why it's important to know where your rib cage is in space. Another thing that I think it's almost becoming a pandemic, it's across the population, is the rounded shoulders. And that's because of our sedentary lifestyle and our use of the devices. Rounded shoulders move, when you round the shoulders forward, we move the scapula away from where it should be sitting on the back ribs, and that brings them in a position that it's not optimal for the movement, or even for the start of the movement. They're already misaligned when we start to move. So that's another thing that we'll be paying attention to, keeping our shoulders or chest open. And so let's see what that all looks like in a pose. We'll come into high lunge with my left foot forward, right foot back. Find the neutral pelvis first. We did this. We know how to do this now. And I'll just mention what I often see is with the anterior pelvic tilt, we push our belly forward, we push our floating ribs forward, we bring the arms up. Look what's happening. Like the ribs are going forward, back is rounding. So we'll start by tucking the tailbone under, extending it towards the floor to find the neutral pelvis. Now you can still be pushing the chest forward, reaching the arms up, even with the neutral pelvis. Let's pull those floating ribs in. So just think of pulling them down towards the pelvis. Think of pulling those floating ribs towards the pelvic points. And then again, you can have the shoulders forward and maybe the arms can even go up as much. Think of broadening across the chest. Nice wide shoulders, and then lift the arms forward and up. Bring the head back, but we'll think about the head another day. Good. So that's how you can start to think of your rib cage and your shoulder blade position throughout different poses, different moves. Your challenge today is to pay attention to this as you go through your day. If you're planning to move your body, which I hope you are, just notice what your tendencies are. The first step to correcting our posture is to observe and notice what habitually we do so we can start to make changes. So today is that day when you're observing yourself. Notice when you're rounding your shoulders, keep reminding yourself to bring them back. And again, when you bring back the shoulders, you don't want to push the ribs in, keep the ribs in. Your ribs out, keep the ribs in. A lot to think about, I know. But the more you think about it, the easier it will be to just quickly check in with yourself. Be like, oh yeah, I just need to straighten up a bit. When we open the shoulders, we stand more proudly, stand more confident. It translates into how we feel about ourselves, how we present to the world. So yeah, that's your challenge for today. You can also observe others around you, your family members, people you pass by on the street. And just notice if you can tell how they're positioning their body. So hope you have fun with that today. Tomorrow we'll go into a little flow where we'll focus on this position of the rib cage in various poses and transitions. You will need a strap or a belt of some sort. The rope belt works, a tie works, tie. So something like that to just have it with you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.